Hi, Dirk.
Hello.
Amazing. I love your wallpaper. You know this, the great Upland wallpaper. And I think also Sebastien and also from BreederDAO are in the audience. Maybe say something, then we see you on the screen here in the big audience.
Hi guys.
Hey, cool to have you.
Hello. Yeah, I
Sebastien?
can't see Sebastian yet in the Zoom call here. I think it's just Jeff and myself.
Okay, so I will drop him a message, but I think we can start. And here in the audience is also Nicolas from MetaGameHub and Oliver Löffler from Angry Dynomites Lab. So yeah, and everyone is listening to you. It works. The sound is great. And thanks, Dirk, for making it happen. And also Jeth for making it happen in your time zone. So, and yeah, we're talking about insights between Silicon Valley and Europe, status quo and outlook 2025. And let's start with an introduction. I would say, Dirk, I give you the word, and because yeah, it makes sense for you to start here.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, and thank you for having me. I say hello from actually Qatar, where I am right now, because Upland is a partner of FIFA, and we do a lot of activities here together with them. And yeah, my name is Dirk Lueth. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Upland. Normally, I live back there, what you see in the bridge here in San Francisco. Originally from Germany, was living in Silicon Valley for 15 years, and we started Upland basically born out of the idea. We inspired by Monopoly, taking the real world, watching the Netflix series Stranger Things, where there was a parallel world, and said, hey, why don't we create this what we call Metaverse? And that was actually in 2018. When actually no one was talking about the metaverse, but you can see that when we incorporated, when we signed up, our URL was upland.me for metaverse. But interestingly enough, we said at that time, no one knows what a metaverse is. So at the beginning, we were trying to avoid even that word. We thought marketing-wise doesn't make full sense. And also the NFT we were trying to avoid. We're talking about a parallel world, digital asset, and so on. But fast forward, here we are now, and in terms of landowners, right, we're by far the largest metaverse out there because we make it super easy for users to onboard. We have over, I think, 310,000 landowners in Upland with a little bit more than 3 million registered users. We sold almost 5 million NFTs so far, and we are live as we're based on the real world in 20 cities in the US. You don't have to be in those cities to play, so we have actually quite also a German audience. I think 7-8% are coming from Germany. We also opened up Rio de Janeiro and Porto as a partnership with FC Porto. So here we are, and coming from the idea of inspiration of Monopoly was a property trading game. Upland is developing to becoming really the lobby of the metaverse. We have a third-party developer platform where other apps can connect to us, Web2 applications, but any other applications, and benefit from our ecosystem. So thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely, and we will have also a lot of time to talk about insights regarding Upland, the plans forward, and yeah, also the challenging times when it comes to metaverse adoption. And I also want to hand over to Jeth from BreederDAO with an introduction, because Jeth, I love your team. I love what BreederDAO doing. Thanks for making it happen. It's already 7 o'clock in Indonesia. Huh?
Hey, yeah. Thanks for having me. It's 7 o'clock in Indonesia and 7 o'clock in the Philippines as well, where I'm from. So, hello. My name is Jeth. I'm co-founder and CEO of BreederDAO. So we like to call ourselves the factory of the metaverse. We got our start breeding Axes. Um, the idea of BreederDAO was really born out of a need for supplying guilds with high quality assets. Back when we first flirted with the idea, it was only guilds that were forming DAOs around playing these games, and no one was really paying attention to the asset side, the supply side of things. So we decided to tokenize the idea, form a DAO around it. And to date, we've produced over 100,000 assets in multiple game economies, so we're game agnostic. We focus solely on producing assets or game assets, NFTs, which we then supply to marketplaces or to our partner guilds. So we use a combination of data analytics and game mastery to have economical supply chains for the best NFTs that serve their specific purpose. So guilds can come to us if they want a specific Axie, for example, or a specific crab with genes that would fit their play style, and then we produce it for them in mass.
Thanks for this, Jeth. And yeah, let's head over to Oliver, that you also hear about Oliver and Nicolas here in the audience in Germany, what they do, and then we start the panel.
Now it works. Perfect. Yeah. Hi, I'm Olli. I'm CEO and co-founder of Angry Dynomites Lab. So with Angry Dynomites Lab, we want to build something what we call meta economy. So we want to basically create the building blocks that power the metaverse. So we are creating a really resource-intensive game where you can use like resources to craft new resources. So you have like certain input resources, for example, multiple fire resources that you can turn into an energy resource or an energy in a water resource into a steam resource, and then you can basically create endless crafting experiences, and these could be the building blocks then to, for example, like in a metaverse, use them to build a house instead of just minting a house with one ETH. You could mint a house maybe with 1,000 wood, 1,000 stones, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So we sold out also like some NFTs already, 2,000 before on Ethereum. We are building the game itself with all the tokens on Polygon, so all the resources will actually be tokens that are tradable among each other. And yeah, so before that I was co-founder of Colibri Games. We did mobile free-to-play games, did a successful exit to Ubisoft, and since we left Colibri, I was basically really amazed by the opportunities in Web3, so I really dig deep into it, and that really inspired me to start an Angry Dynomites Lab.
Thanks, Oliver. Nicolas.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Great to meet everyone. So yeah, I'm Nicolas, founder of MetaGameHub DAO. We are basically, you can call us a one-stop shop for the metaverse. We are providing a platform for investing and building, right, into the metaverse, where from the investment part, we develop different analytical tools based on AI for appraisers of lands and other NFTs. And then we have different, let's say, go-to-market strategies with this. On the one hand, we have a heat map for where we aggregate the different virtual worlds, and then we have, you know, the different analytical data around them there. You can find undervalued lands and more. Complementary, we also have other analytics for your individual portfolios, and we do B2B integrations into marketplaces, for instance, which is more off-chain, as well as we run a chaining oracle for on-chain data provision right into the DeFi spectrum for further financialization of these lands and other metaverse-related NFTs. And from the building part, we on the one hand are developing a go-to metaverse editor, right? A universal scene editor for plug-and-play metaverse building. We start with Decentraland because right now you have, in our opinion, the most development flexibility there. But of course, taking it beyond Decentraland in the future. We also have a team that is dedicated to developing different retentive-focused experiences together with community, with brands, IP. So we have done, for instance, a couple of digital art drops, as well as, you know, let's say collaborations within esports, traditional gaming, and more. So it's really, again, all about being a one-stop shop for the metaverse and pushing adoption forward together with amazing partners.
Okay, so I also reached Sebastien. He's coming very soon, so we're watching the waiting room. And no, let's start then with the panel and also the status quo and the outlook. And dear Jeth, dear Dirk, here in Zoom, we talked earlier that day also about visualization of entertainment and you know, how the metaverse is kind of that entertainment and how you see, guys, the year 2022, because a lot of people said it's just buzzwords. Everyone talked about NFTs 2021. It went down 2022, and maybe in some years nobody is talking about that word. It's just there, and you have to adopt it. So, and the same for the metaverse. So, what's your opinion about going forward and where we are at the moment when it comes to metaverse, NFTs, and all you're dealing with? Dirk, you want to start maybe, or Jeth? Up to you.
Yeah, sure. I can start, right? I think the status, of course, I mean, don't have to repeat it, and I haven't listened what has been said in the panels before, right? But obviously, you know, the industry is going through interesting times. You know, when you thought, you know, we're already in the winter or kind of a winter, FTX or whatever. But the problem is, that everything gets thrown into one basket, which is obviously not true, especially, when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to Metaverse. I don't think that we have that issue really there. But, the problem is always when you talk about tech, and Metaverse it's a concept, right? It's not, it's like the internet, right? I mean, I remember very well when the internet came around, right? Everyone said, okay, what is actually the internet? And you've probably seen those funny videos out of the 90s when people were trying to explain it. We're pretty much in the state like this as well. So at the end, it comes down to, what kind of applications are there, right? And what people actually do there. And I always say, web, that Metaverse is very well connected, right, with the web development. When you think about Web 1.0 was basically read, right? We just had newspapers, which is entertainment, right? Talk about that, right? And Web 2.0 came, which is read write, which was social media, Facebook, so people were able to starting to contribute. Now we have actually Web 3. We say read, write, own, right? Where people all of a sudden they start to own the digital goods. That means also they can become much more creative, because when you own stuff, you are more creative. You take more care of things. And when you add the component of Metaverse to it, then you actually have to add the let's say the verb, let's say act, right, or do something in there. And that's exactly what we're currently seeing, right? And when you translate those Web 1 to 3 to the Metaverse, right? I think Web 1, Web 1, when there was the first version of kind of what people tend to say, Metaverse, you have the games like Doom and Wolfenstein, very early games, which was basically read, just there was a predefined mission, right? Which was there was no contribution at all from the players. You just had to run through the missions and you're done with the game. It was some kind of a 3D world. Then you had Web 2-ish type of thing. That's when Minecraft came along, Roblox as such, right? But like Doom and also like Wolfenstein, I also see Roblox and Minecraft more as games, even though they allowed user contributions, user-generated content. And now we have Web 3, right? Again, you have now the own component, right? That people actually can extract monetary value out of it, because if you don't own it, you cannot sell it. That's what you can do now in web. And that actually will inspire a lot of new creativity coming in. That means also when you think about the entertainment space, right? Entertainment is always about, telling stories. And, now we have to tell different stories in Web3, in the Metaverse, right? Where you include the whole ownership, where you include communities in there. And I think we're at the very, very beginning of everything. And we all know that, right? It's just, early innings, right? Because, Metaverse, the hype started basically only like roughly a year ago. So, but I'm very sure, like in 3 or 4 years' time, we'll speak of, that there will be new applications, new killer applications which came out, which in connection with entertainment, let's say the Instagram or whatever of the Metaverse. So I clearly see that, and we have a lot of good, smart people joining the industry, and it's just a matter of time until it's going to happen.
Thanks for these words. And when I can ask you a question also about the NFTs, because you also use NFTs in Upland, how you think about that specific, and where is this going? Before I hand the word over to Jeth, which company is focusing on breeding and NFTs and all that stuff?
So in Upland, we're trying to avoid the word NFT. Because from day one, and sometimes people are looking which metaverses are hyped, right? And Sebastian's one of them. But in our world, we're more talking about the ownership of doing something with it. So to give you one example, when we're avoiding that the consequences, because Upland is obviously available on iOS and Android stores. Also, 65% of our users, they do not own NFTs outside of Upland. So this clearly shows that we are able to onboard, let's say, non-crypto aficionados, people, right, who really come and to enjoy the game, to entertain themselves, also maybe potentially make money. But it's not about the word NFT, it's about ownership and doing something with it and enhancing it, and then maybe selling it to others, right? It's also not just about speculation, because unfortunately in NFTs there was a lot of speculation in there, but I think in the future will be just different, right? You own a digital asset, like in the real world, you own something and then you make a better thing out of it because you're creative, right? You create maybe a better car, maybe you create a better piece of art, right? That's all possible because you own it, and then you can actually get it to the next level.
Okay, thanks a lot. And as you said, I heard also that Sebastian is joined. Can we see you?
No, he's not in the call here.
Okay, because I see a 5 or under attendance. No, let's okay. Let's continue with Jeth. What's your take on the current situation, the year 2022 and also 2021, when NFTs became very famous just for the word, and how you see the space going into dynamic NFTs, and maybe also give some insights how BreederDAO is dealing with it at the moment and also in the future.
I think it's a very exciting time right now. 2021, we saw the explosion of popularity of NFTs, of metaverses. It entered into the common parlance of the world population, those who are inclined with tech. And just to piggyback off of what Dirk said, I think that people are naturally spending more time online, right? Web 1 was, like he said, it went from read to read and write to read and write and own. It's a natural progression towards spending more and more of our lives in the digital space. And blockchain technologies and NFTs in particular allows people to get more out of their online experiences. It builds this, it has this infrastructure, and it offers a layer where these experiences are then more. It's more fulfilling. People get more out of it. So it's very exciting. Not to mention that 2022 was a bit of a rough year for crypto, but it happens. Boom and bust cycles are not new, especially with new technology. There's always a rush for the financial aspect of it, and people really took advantage of it, and it's what dominated the news. The price of NFTs, pictures of apes selling for $1 million. But for us building in the space, it's all about the tech. Even if the price goes down, it's just, in my opinion, price is just noise. As long as the tech works, as long as there are people building and continuously improving on this tech, I think the future looks very bright. And I think, like I said, it's only a natural progression for us humans to spend more time online. As for BreederDAO, we slowly discovered that some game economies aren't as sustainable as we expected them to be. And we're expecting that more projects will experiment with more sustainable economies, different models, but we are steadfast in our belief that assets will be the groundwork for the metaverse, and you can't have a metaverse without assets, without the NFTs.
Okay, thanks for this. Earlier this morning we talked about, is it the start into the metaverse and also to own some kind of NFTs or having ownership or skin in the game just digital, or is it really starting also from a physical angle? Because we are recognizing that companies like Artifact are now going into sneakers, or also existing companies are dropping digital twins and connect them with NFC technology to say, hey, you have now our let's say bicycle now with the NFC technology, you have a digital twin, and this bicycle later you can have an Upland in the Sandbox in Decentraland. So the way how people should be onboarded, how you see this? Maybe we give first the question here to Nicolas, but then also to you both afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think when it comes to phygital activations, that's something that has really in the past like 12 months grown, right, as a topic. And what we've realized from our side with the sub-brand of MetaGameHub DAO called Espacio Creador, we've launched, for instance, a jacket drop, a fashion drop in Latin America with a fashion company in Bogota. And like I've been traveling, you know, wearing the jacket, and what I've realized is that it's so much easier also to onboard people if they have something tangible that they can feel, right? So I think when it comes to these phygital drops, it's a very, let's say, good entry point, better than, let's say, maybe just throwing land at someone and saying, hey, look, help yourself, right? That is also something that's coming, and the co-creation needs to be pushed, of course, right? But phygital drops can be a good entry point, especially for brands, I think. And, you know, for instance, from the jacket, you know, you can, if you show someone, hey, look, you have the jacket here in the real world, you can wear it here in the digital world, right? That's something that anyone can understand, right? So that's something where I feel like in terms of onboarding users, which is something that right now, especially in the bear market, right, this is the best time to grow users, right? Because there's less noise, you can position yourself as the market leader better. There I see digital goods as a very good tool. At the same time, when it comes to supply chain and everything around it, right? It's not just about like the let's say marketing perspective, but there's also a lot of like tracing on chain that can take place in the future. I mean, back in 2017-18, there was already a lot of supply chain blockchain hype, which never really, I feel like, materialized that much as it it was supposed to be, right? It was that entire private blockchain debates. But I think maybe now digital goods at some point, once we've, let's say, achieved that first step of adoption there, you know, we can also reach a second step where we can go back even to that debate, right? Where you can track it. Imagine you can, let's say, hey, look, I wear the same jacket that, I don't know, LeBron James wore, right? Like these type of things, I think will evolve also down the road. But specifically right now, I feel like it's a very good onboarding tool, right, for mass adoption. Because you can wear the jacket without having to care whether it's an NFT. If you are interested in it, yes, but you don't have to, right? And I think kind of at the end of the day, that onboarding needs to be proactive. We need to proactively engage, right, and not just react all the time if we really want to continuously engage in these virtual worlds.
Okay, thank you, Nicolas. There's a 6 now. Is Sebastian now in? Because 6 attendees are interested who's also attending because the technique can maybe tell me why we have 6. But Ollie, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good onboarding tool because people can really find out what NFTs like can look like in the metaverse and also like in the real physical world. Like to have the connection between two, I think it makes it easier to understand what it is about. I think in the long run, I think like the digital part of it will become more valuable for users as soon as we have like a real metaverse with a lot of people and established, because like then you will be seen with like this digital avatar more often than probably in the real world. Also, I think like what we talked about earlier, that like we spend more and more time in our digital worlds, and I think like once we are even spending more times in metaverses, like the digital part of the NFTs will become way more valuable for people as they are today. But I think for now it's like the right choice to give like the physical twin to the people in order to kind of have an identity with the NFTs as well.
Okay, thanks. Sebastian, can you hear us? Because you should be in.
Yes.
Hey, cool. Great to have you. I know your schedule is amazingly busy, and we're very happy to have you here. So welcome our audience here in Berlin, in Europe, and we just talked about if you heard it about the onboarding. Should it be online, like owning something with land or with in Upland or the Sandbox, or is it also the way from the physical perspective? Maybe you can also say if the Sandbox will on one day have something physical to onboard people into the metaverse. We had just this example of this jacket, which is like you can have a jacket, but if you do proactive stuff, you can also have a digital twin to use in the metaverse. This was the discussion.
Of course. Hello, Wickets. I'm sorry for being late and joining the conversation now. Actually, no, like the goal of Sandbox platform is to be fully digital. Like we believe in a future like essentially offer and empower creators and players through like true digital ownership of any kind of 3D content, asset or experiences that will be made using like a very simple and accessible tool like 3D editor Vox Edit, and can be used within social and immersive experiences is hosted on lands. So as a platform, we definitely were not looking or contemplating anything physical ourselves. However, we provide the infrastructure for creators and businesses and entrepreneurs to launch their own businesses. And we're seeing in our ecosystem, our growing ecosystem of 230 plus studios around the world, that some of them are indeed like creating like physical toys, figurines, merchandising, They are exploring phygital as a way to connect users who own a real physical good to use it exclusively as well in the metaverse or vice versa. What we're seeing essentially is like it's still like a very experimenting space where we don't know yet which are like the key business model, which will be more which will drive more or less adoption. But at the end, it's okay because like as a platform, we're definitely seeing many different verticals in music, in gaming, in fashion, in luxury, in media, in culture, in pop culture, and so in sports and so on. And each one might have a different approach towards like how they engage their audience and they offer more value for their audience through digital ownership and through like the kind of experience that they provide them so they can connect more to their favorite brands.
Okay, thanks for this. Earlier, that talk, Dirk said that they recognized in Upland that it was 65% of the users not had, before they went into Upland, any NFT. You maybe have also some insights from the last alpha. So are you collecting that data? So how important is data in Sandbox?
Yeah, we've just released like all the data around like the engagement of Alpha Season 3, which has been like 10 weeks long event featuring 98 experiences, 22 major brands such as like Warner Music, Ubisoft, music artists like Steve Aoki, Snoop Dogg, or brands like Rabbit from Ubisoft. And well, the results are like fantastic. Like we had over 17 million visits in total. The top 10 experiences, each one of them are between 500,000 to 1,000,000 visits. The engagement from user has been like really strong. Like users spend an average of 20 minutes per session within an experience, an hour 20 in total through per day, and over 2.4 million hours in total have been spent, which for me is one of the greatest metric when you compare to like the average attention span that users on traditional Web2 social media, which is much less than a few seconds, sometimes 3 seconds, 5 seconds. We're showing that people are ready to explore the metaverse and doing so like in a very explorative way, spending time, educating themselves, completing quests, learning new skills, co-creating with the brand, their presence, and using their avatar to express themselves, move, and even like play with avatar that come from outside the sandbox, since we had over 20 collection from the whole Web3 ecosystem, being one of the first proof of interoperability. So overall, like great result, and it goes on with the events that we've launched after season 3. We introduced Gucci Vault or Kuniverse from Kunagero football player. Right now we have a season around Korean culture and a very social experience with Blondish, which is a fantastic DJ.
It's amazing. I also met your team in Miami, where I stayed the last 6 days. And we also met in New York. And Sandbox is always doing great offline events also to connect people and empower the scene, the devs. And that's you feel the power, you feel the magic, and that's really great. And you're in a good way. And so we're so happy here to have you also in Germany, that you took the time. And hand over to Dirk. Dirk, what's your take about this? What I asked before about onboarding online, as you hear now from Sebastien, he said it's completely digital platform infrastructure, empowering creators. What's your take on this on Upland? Are you going the same way? And how you see it when the brands are going to physical and creating digital twins? So would you say it's good because it's empowering you? It's an add-on, so you don't have to do it. So that could be also an answer.
So when it comes to digital, I mean, Upland is based on the real world, and for us, it's of course clear that we're going to go and do stuff with the real world, where people will do stuff and on board with some physical goods, and also the other way around, coming from the digital world and going back to physical. So I think the lines are going to blur, especially in our case. When you're in San Francisco, of course you can maybe do then something when you're actually in the city itself. Right now, you don't have to be in those cities to play. Right, but going forward there will be. But I think one important thing is here, what we should not forget, because we're always talking about mass adoption, and I think the biggest problem what is out there at the moment is when we say, okay, they may be on board and they buy a real world good, a physical good, and then you come somehow to the metaverse. But I think that's doing one step too early. So the biggest problem when you think about mass adoption is about a whole idea, and I know we have probably lots of people who are decentralized maximalists in the room, right, and so on, but all the question about self-custody, and I strongly at Upland, we don't believe, that self-custody is really mass market ready. I don't know when it will be ready, but the normal users, they don't want to deal with private keys, wallet, and passphrases. It's just no way that's going to happen. They want convenience. If they lose their password, they want to call or at least write an email to someone, hey, I lost my password, can you restore it? Right? It's never going to work that people are going to do everything themselves, not in the next 4 or 5 years, at least minimum. So maybe there's new solutions coming out which help, but right now there's nothing inside Dynomites. So that's the first thing, the first barrier you have to overcome in order to get the mass market. The second one is then go where the most of the users are, right? And today, when you think about it, most people are on the devices, right? You can see it, but on mobile devices, right? That's where 80% of the users are. So you have to have mobile apps, right, in order to also get to them. Next one is then most people do not own crypto, right? And so how do you onboard them to the NFT metaverse as such, right? So you actually, you need to give them also an easy way in. Of course, when you have iOS Android app, you can use in-app purchases, like an Upland, right? But you also need to offer credit card and PayPal maybe, right? In order for them to easily come. Also, the way extract monetary value, right? Is maybe they don't want to have crypto. Maybe they just want to have dollars back, right? But they're still dealing with true ownership on the blockchains, right? But it's still something, we have to go one step after the other. And then the third dimension I want to mention is metaverse can be challenging. So if I go now and visit Sebastien in Paris, right? And I've never been in Paris, right? Actually I have, but of course, if I've never been there, right? I actually need the guide, right? Maybe I call Sebastien, tell him, hey, Sebastien, can you show me around, right? Or I have a book, right, who tells me where to go. And the metaverse is very much a similar way. People are coming in to the metaverse through different entry points. So I mentioned we have now this partnership with FIFA, which is running super successful. We're selling out stuff like in seconds, right? Of course, it was expected, right? But we have a partnership with the NFL Play Association in the US. We have a partnership with the Samba dance school in Rio de Janeiro. So when you think about it, people are finding different paths into the metaverse. But when you let's say when you are a Carnival fan in Rio de Janeiro, right, and you want to do something there, and then you see all of a sudden an onboarding from like from the NFLPA or from football, right? Then people might say, what does it mean now for me, right? So I think the biggest challenge metaverse have to overcome is also how do you get people right, create a good first-time user experience to get them there, why they came in the first place, right? So I think there's still a few challenges we have to solve here, but I'm optimistic that we will do so.
Okay, thanks for this points, Dirk. Jeth, I want to hand over to you, to BreederDAO. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so phygital items are pretty interesting. I think it's an interesting experiment. It really bridges that gap, that mind gap as to where value is. It's especially useful for those who aren't used to digital items. It makes it a bit more digestible, a bit more palatable, that you actually receive a physical item, which we normally associate with value, plus a digital item. But I guess it depends entirely on who you're trying to target, right? There are people in the population who would appreciate phygital items, who would be onboarded easier with phygital items. But at the same time, there are also people in the world who already have an inkling of the value of digital items. And I'm not just talking about crypto guys like us, the crypto natives, who we are very well aware of what the value of digital items are. But I'm talking about the digitally native Gen Z, for example, who are used to buying clothes for their avatars in Zepeto, for example. Or I'm talking about gamers who, for the longest time since MMORPGs have been online, who are used to selling accounts, farming gold, who already have an idea in their head that what they're staring at in their computer screen has real-world value, and who have first-hand experience trading these things, these digital items, for real-world cash. these guys, the people who, these gamers, the Gen Zs, the digitally native, they don't need a physical item because they already understand that seed has already been planted in their brain, and it's easier to digest NFTs and digital items.
Okay, thanks for this. Ollie, here in Berlin, what do you think about the feedback from Sebastian and Dirk and Jeth? Because as you can see, Sebastian said we're focusing online, and Dirk said with our metaverse, of course, we have to go up offline because we are showing the streets, and you can buy like a piece of it, and also the point of Jeth. How you see it, and when you would kick off another company, what would you focus on? So which position? Because you sold successful to Ubisoft, and after this, now you founded your new company. So maybe some takes from you.
Yeah, so I think like that gaming can be a great key for a lot of people to enter the metaverse. I think like gaming, if you look back, like was always like kind of a driver for mass adoption. If it was like PCs, like I think the first programs which really like got a lot of people to PCs and later even consoles are kind of developed out of that for people to play games. And then the smartphone came, and I think like the apps which got millions of users, or the first apps that got millions of users were games as well. And I think like this can also be true for Web3 or metaverses now as well, that games can kind of, give, have like a lot of users, like a lot of people are actually playing games. So 50% of the whole population is for some degree playing games, be it mobile, casual, be it hardcore PC games. And I think that's a big audience which can be addressed, and where people can also learn about the metaverse. I think like what you said before, it's like you need to get used to how to behave in a metaverse, like how you can navigate in a metaverse and so on and so forth. And with games, they can do it in a fun way. And I think that's the best way to learn. So I actually think that if we have like great games which utilize NFTs, which utilize Web3 and blockchain technology, that we can onboard way more people to Web3 and then ultimately to the metaverse. And also if you look into the past, there's already like Roblox, there's Fortnite, which are already having high amounts of users. They have, I think, 80 to 100 million active users, and they are slowly turning themselves into metaverses as well, although they don't have like a clear Web3 integration yet, maybe not ever, but I think it's maybe also like a little bit more than just like Web3. I think like in the end, it's like an immersive world where people can kind of where digital fashion can meet their friends, become also like, I think Sebastian mentioned it, more like a social platform, social media. I think like, for example, in Fortnite, I know a lot of like the players are more logging in to meet their friends, to kind of explore new dance moves, to go to a concert now, not just to play games anymore. So I think this could actually be a good driver to mass adoption.
Let's talk, Sebastian. He's here. How much people are using the chat? What do you think on Ollie's take and words when you compare this? So how much people? Because you said it's over 1 hour duration. So is it really used? Is it good structure? What's your feedback here, Sebastian? It's very interested, and then I give you Nicolas the word.
Yeah, I think like the Alpha Season 3 has demonstrated again like the great engagement, and like we could see that at any point of time when you enter Sandbox, like with an avatar, you could see other people running around. Some guides as well, like taking you to do like the quest or like mini game and side activities as well. And in terms of like that engagement, not only expressed by having like avatar and movement, people collecting items, completing quests, finding hidden treasures, and so on, but also in the number of chat messages that's been exchanged. And I'm trying to see, okay, I just found it. Like we published the metrics in our Alpha Season 3 report. There's been 8 million messages through the in-game chat that's been exchanged, but also over social media. Like there's been over 1.1 million engagement on Twitter alone, and more than 600,000 minutes of live content across YouTube and Twitch, which is which culminated with on the last day of this season, 24 hours continuous streaming with hundreds of people participating. So it shows like people are definitely seeing the metaverse and Web3 technology as a way to connect with others in a meaningful manner. And that connection, it's also expressed through the avatar, through the digital asset you own, typically like the wearable, the equipment you use, or the avatar itself you use to express your identity, the other NFT you own and which group you're part of, and how you chat and make new friends into the virtual world.
Okay, thanks for this. And one last question also to Dirk, to that point, because I know you have a very active Discord community, and when you open a new city, the people are so vibrant and chatting and flying with the airplane to that place to get something minted. But you have not that kind of chatting in Upland compared to, let's say, Fortnite or the Sandbox. What's your takeaway on that? And is it planned, or is it just how it is? I give you the word.
Yeah, that's true. I know all of our social activities are happening mainly on Discord, right, where people chat in around, right? We have a very, very, very low-key messaging, where you can just do offers and so on. Upland. However, we decided strategically that we want to move all of the conversations into Upland. So we'll soon launch what is going to be very much looks like like a full social media tool on the one hand. So we have a various way, because communication can be different things, right? It can be one-to-many, many-to-many, can be groups, small groups, big groups, and what have you, right? So I clearly see I'm going to launch in different phases. The first phase is going to be very much like one-to-one communication, what people were demanding the most for Upland, and then a few announcement channels. But over time, I clearly see also that people can go to virtual coffee shops, meet there, right, and then gather together with like-minded people, to discuss whatever they want to discuss. Because we have this concept of virtual locality where people are coming together from, let's say, in San Francisco, but they're coming together from all around the world because they want to create an artist neighborhood or something. And that's going to be, I think all metaverse is going to be very much social places, right? I think my hunch is that a lot of social media traffic will move into the metaverse going forward. But with the caveat is that, so at least that's our position. I think Sebastien is a similar position, but Upland's position is, we don't want to, we're not targeting, getting the data from the users, right, and to show it against, advertising. That's not our objective, right? It's more really, because we're not really interested in the data of the users, right? So we're not that, we're not like a traditional social network. It's basically, it's that people are really free to act in there and what they do. However, there need to be probably still some. That's the challenge, right? When you think about decentralization and all this free speech discussion, right? How far can you go? How far can you allow things, right? It's a challenge we still have to solve. Ideally, it gets solved by the community itself, but for that you have to provide the right tools.
Okay, thanks for this. And now, finally, hand over to Nicolas, because you're building in the metaverse and you're building in the sandbox and partnering with the sandbox. You're building in Decentraland. What's your takeover? So, what clients are coming to you asking, hey, can you support us? And how you see the physical world, digital world of onboarding?
Yeah, no, I think in terms of the demand, right, I would say like 6 to 12 months ago, it was mainly crypto companies actually, whereas now, I'm not sure if it's an increased interest per se, but definitely there's a lot more traditional guys knocking on our doors, right? And I think it's a good thing, right? You have all the IP that has already entered the space, and I think it's just growing more even, right? And I think also from the perspective of, for instance, gaming, we heard gaming, right, from you, Oliver, before. So I think esports really is going to be a spearhead of adoption. And here, for instance, I already know that you mentioned him, Seb Kuhn, right? He's doing a lot of amazing stuff already in Sandbox, and with his esports team Crew, for instance, he's now also entering step by step the virtual worlds, right? And I think esports, before we get the broader gaming community, esports kind of as the influencers can kind of push that adoption a bit more forward as they impact, right, the gaming industry and the trends there. And in terms of the social, I think what would be really interesting, right, is not just to replicate existing social media applications from Web 2, as a step one, of course, yes, that's how you first have a seamless transition. But as a step two, I think what would be really interesting then is also integrating social graphs, right? Like, for instance, what Lens Protocol is doing to have a bit more decentralized social media that potentially even connects to the different virtual worlds, whether it's Sandbox, whether it's Upland, whether it's Decentraland, right? And then creates kind of this unification. Because at the end of the day, right now, the metaverse space is still very siloed, right? And if you really want to have adoption, we need to have the aggregation, right? Because some of the most, or more, actually probably by far the most successful applications in Web2 are all about aggregation, whether it's Amazon aggregating goods, Facebook aggregating social, Google aggregating data, right? And domains. So basically, I think aggregation is really going to be a key part. And going back, what you mentioned also, Dennis, regarding the phygital aspects, right? I mean, we talked about it already a little bit. I think, yeah, it's a part of the ecosystem to onboard. But I think, Jeth, you mentioned it. It depends on which niche you're targeting, right? And who you actually want to onboard. People that are already fully embedded in the digital economy, you don't necessarily need to onboard them through physical goods. It could be a good add-on, right? But eventually, I fully agree with what you said, Jed, that they are mainly going to be represented with their avatars, right, than with their physical items. But at the same time, if you're talking about maybe a bit more the older generation, right, and you know, I definitely, for instance, think that for people that have dementia, the metaverse could be a great place, right, for instance, to exist, and there, these physical items could definitely be helpful, yeah.
Okay,
Can I just quickly add one thing? As you know, Sebastian and I, we're working also on OMA3, which is Open Metaverse for Alliance for Web3, OMA3.org, if you haven't signed up for it. So our idea is, even though we're developing our, let's say, own chat features and so on, right? But in the long term, it's exactly what you just said, right? Eventually, ideally, people can, somehow this works together between the metaverse, right? How it's going to look like, we don't know yet. But that's somehow the vision. We want to bring things together, right? And the OMA 3 is obviously the initiative to drive that further, and that includes then also communication and social networking as well.
Thanks for this. And what are companies searching at the moment? So Sebastian, Dirk, and Jed, is it users? Is it builders? So how important is Europe at the moment? As last question, because we already postponed a bit, but maybe you can say also about this. So what drives also the ecosystem for you? And if you have something to say. And for the audience, I think everyone should look into the Sandbox. We also present here outside our Cryptotech Education Village, and thanks to the Bastian and the great team, we are featured in the Game Maker. So if you have some builders, you can download the Game Maker and try yourself to build like an experience. And also the Upland app is available on all devices. But yeah, I give the word to you. Maybe Sebastian, start as a last round.
Sure. Thank you. And I think like ultimately for the metaverse to succeed, we need to bring more and more like great experiences that people will enjoy. At the end of the day, like people are not going to necessarily pay much attention at the beginning around like the technology, the benefit of the technology. They are here for engaging with great content, with great project, community, and experiences. And we want to keep facilitating accessibility to those experience and content, bringing more and more creators on board. Like our goal is to also like democratize creation and empower anyone to become a creator. So that comes through the tool you mentioned, and keep working on those tools to add more feature around like multiplayer gameplay, add more feature around like launching your own show, your own concert, and creating various activities that then creator can take for themselves, customize, and put available on the platform. Those are two elements that we prioritize. Mobile as a platform, like Dirk really well mentioned, like people want to access with the simplest device they have at hand into like the metaverse. So bringing Sandbox to mobile is definitely a priority on our roadmap towards end of 2023. And like growing this ecosystem, like having Jeth as an example, who is like developing experience in multiple decentralized virtual world. We want to like get closer to all those partners and builders, train them, provide them workshop and guidance, so they could become like the entry point for many of the brands, community, and so on to get into the metaverse. And us like focusing on being the platform for that.
Okay, Jed, you want to continue?
play-to-earn economies, generating assets there. But right now, we consider ourselves, like I said, a factory of the metaverse, and blockchain gaming is just a subset of the metaverse. It's the biggest subset by far, but it's just simply still just a subset. We're exploring projects right now, and we're building things that will allow us to create and to tap creators and create assets in metaverses as well. So not just in blockchain games, but in gamified experiences like metaverses. So that's something that we're building, and at the same time, our core business is still ongoing. We're still producing game assets, but slowly we're expanding our reach from just blockchain game to all digital items.
Okay, interesting. I think we will see a lot next year then from your company. And Dirk?
So you just, Dennis, are you referring to Europe specifically?
The question was, what is Upland at the moment searching? I asked for developers. I know you opened your API that people can build in Upland. So how's the status quo, and yeah, how important is Europe at the moment? Because you opened, last country was Brazil, I think, and also from the roadmap. And if you have anything to say here to the Berlin community, European community, you can do it. Just some insights.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, we always open up new cities because we're very careful in supply and demand. So, in theory, we could have opened the whole world, but we did not do this, right? And always when we have a partner, right, we open up the cities. Can say we have more partners in Europe. We have partners in South America. So, we're going to announce a few things in early next year. Also, whoever wins the World Cup, because we've never opened up a capital in Upland, right? It's going to be the first capital we're going to open. Let's see, it's going to be exciting. Not Berlin, I'm sorry. Should have sailed. And then what we're specifically very excited about is what we launched is our third-party developer platform, where people can connect their existing Web 2 applications or with new Web 3 applications to it. Excuse me. So we launched World of Football, which is basically a Rocket League type of game.
Water, come on, take some water. With the
Yeah, drink some water, hand over to somebody.
Okay, it's no. I mean, what Dirk told me in New York when we met last time, that yeah, the creators have the opportunity also to get their own assets in Upland, to open stores. You know, really like selling items, and when Dirk is back, he can continue. But that you have really a lot of opportunities to do in this ecosystem, and really stores, assets, and you just have to look into it to understand it.
Yeah, we launched World of Football, which is a Rocket League type of game, which was a Brazilian developer, and it's really nice. You can go to the stadium and then play, you know, 3 against 3, 4 against 4, and so on. It's really fun, and you can bring your identity into that game, even though we haven't coded that game, right? And you can take it out, or you can take our currency in and out, right? So, and we make it super easy for existing game developers to connect to that, and that is a little bit why we call ourselves the lobby of the metaverse. Right, we really want lots of experiences, different types of experiences, but they can be in a type of UI which the game developer prefers. If they prefer to have something in Unreal Engine or any other engine, you know, they can actually go and use those.
Thanks for the No, it's okay. I just wanted to support here. And no, thanks, Sebastian, Dirk, and Jeth, decentralized, to be part here in Berlin. And the last takes now to Ollie and Nicolas. Then we're closing, and then I'm very happy to have Nicolas Limberg from Lightback Ventures, which is an amazing guy, also here on the stage. I hope you stay. And after that, we order some food. So be here. It's also an amazing talk, because thanks, Nicolas, to understanding the talk is a bit longer. So Ollie and Nicolas, last talks. What are you searching? Because you also founded a new company, and where is it going next year?
Yeah, so our goal is also to build the actual game itself, and therefore we are want to release something as fast as possible in order to find out what is working and what is not working, and get also feedback from the community and work together with the community. I think right now we are still in a very much experimenting phase as an industry. We have a lot of ideas, but we need to find out what is actually working, and therefore I think speed and iteration is the most important thing, and then also get feedback. And I think the really cool thing about Web3 is that also, and I often say that community is actually the biggest asset of Web3, that the community is so engaged and so willing to support and help, and there are also a lot of talented people who are willing to offer some feedback and so on and so forth. So really want to utilize this. So we want to bring early next year first version of the game on the market, see how it works, what is the feedback, and then iterate over time and therefore make a great successful game out of it.
And Nicolas, you have the last closing words?
Yeah, I mean, from our side, the focus in 2023 really is on 3 pillars. On the one hand, standardizing, right, the metaverse, then unifying it through also different, for instance, unified data layers. I also definitely think that what OMA 3 is doing is great, and happy to explore also some more how we can support there as well. And also aggregating, as I mentioned before, right, because I think at the end of the day, we need to have a standardized entry point and then an aggregated experience that provides the most utility possible. And that's what we're focusing on. And yeah, thanks so much also to you, Dennis, for hosting this great panel. And yeah, great event in Berlin.
I hope you enjoyed it. So give an applause to our great speakers international. Thanks, and I hope you see you again very soon. Stay healthy.